So today, we're diving into a crisis, a real flashpoint that could completely reshape the global economy. And it's all happening around the world's most vital energy choke point, the Strait of Hormuz.
So, how do you solve a global energy crisis? I mean, it sounds like a simple question, doesn't it? A critical supply line gets threatened, you just use force to open it back up. But as you're about to find out, the real answer is a whole lot more complicated than that.
Yeah, because it's not just about an oil tanker getting stuck. According to CBC News analyst Andrew Chang, what we're really looking at here is a complex web, a tangled mess of geopolitical and economic factors. The point he makes is, you can't just clear a path with brute force. You've got to figure out how to navigate the entire web.
So what exactly is this web made of? Well, it's basically woven from three main threads. You've got international relations, which are, super delicate. Then you have these crushing economic sanctions. And finally, the whole region's stability is just fragile. You can see how just sending in the military isn't going to magically untangle all of that.
Okay, so now things are about to escalate. Big time. We're going to look at the first major military action that really lit the fuse on this crisis. A strike that was carefully planned, but had some pretty wild, unpredictable consequences.
So what happened? U.S. forces carried out this huge precision strike on a place called Kharg Island. And look, I can't overstate how important this target is. This tiny little island, it's the main terminal for pretty much all of Iran's oil exports. It's literally the heart of their entire economy.
But here's the thing about that first strike. It was very specific, almost surgical. The U.S. only hit the military stuff. They were sending a message, a really powerful one, but they deliberately left the oil infrastructure alone. It was a calculated gamble, right? Show you've got the power, but don't crash the global economy. At least, not yet.
But all that military precision was immediately undermined by some pretty intense rhetoric. President Trump basically came out and made it crystal clear that this restraint wasn't going to last forever. He said they could take out those oil facilities with just, and I'm quoting here, 5 minutes notice. Well, you can imagine Iran's response was not quiet. It was fast and it was defiant. They promised to escalate, threatening to use more dangerous munitions. And they warned everyone that this conflict wasn't going to stay in one place. They even hinted at strikes on other oil countries in the region that were friendly with the U.S. and Israel.
So, while things are heating up on the military front, something else starts to happen. The official story, the justification for all of this, it starts to fall apart. And the cracks are appearing from both inside the government and from some of America's closest allies.
The first really big crack shows up on March 17, 2026. Out of nowhere, there's this super high-level resignation, and it sends absolute shockwaves through Washington. It's a public challenge to the entire reason this war started.
The guy's name is Joe Kent. He's the director of the U.S. National Counterterrorism Center, and he doesn't just quit. He releases this bombshell of an open letter. In it, he says he just cannot in good conscience support the war. Why? Because he claims Iran was no imminent threat, and his whole thing was kicked off because of political pressure from the outside.
So you've got this explosion of dissent happening inside the U.S. government. At the exact same time, the diplomatic pressure from outside is ramping up. We're talking America's closest, most powerful allies. They all get together and decide they need to say something, and they need to say it now.
And this isn't just one or two countries. We're talking Canada, France, Germany, Italy, and the UK all signing on to one statement. It's a huge deal. They call for immediate de-escalation and warn that if things don't cool down, we could be looking at devastating humanitarian consequences.
But, despite all these calls for peace, it's almost like the conflict has a life of its own now. It just refuses to stay in one box. That first strike started a chain reaction, and now the consequences are spilling out all over the Middle East.
Just look at how fast this thing spreads. It starts with the U.S. strike in Iran. Then almost immediately it expands. You've got Israeli airstrikes hitting Lebanon. You have a drone attack in Oman. I mean, the whole region is turning into a tinderbox, just waiting for a spark.
Let's look at Oman for a second. A drone strike hits an oil storage facility right at the port of Salalah. This is huge because it shows the fight is no longer just about military targets. Now, energy infrastructure in other countries is fair game, which could make the economic fallout way, way worse.
And at the same time, it's like a whole second front just opens up. Israel ramps up its air campaign against Hezbollah, who of course are a major ally of Iran. We're talking strikes hitting the middle of Beirut. Just like that, Lebanon gets dragged right into the middle of this whole mess.
Okay, so we've been talking a lot about geopolitics and military strikes, but what does all of this actually mean for regular people? Let's bring it back home and look at the real-world concerns this is stirring up.
right? Because this isn't just some abstract story about missiles and diplomats in faraway places. This has real, tangible costs that are sparking a lot of anxiety and a lot of debate among everyday people thousands of miles from any battlefield. And when you look at what people are actually saying, a few key themes keep popping up. There's this deep anxiety about the economy. People are asking, hey, what about energy independence? Shouldn't we be focused on renewables? And there's this really strong feeling that important stuff at home, like affordable healthcare, is just being pushed aside. And above all else, what do people want? They just want peace. One person even wrote, negotiate peace and call it a win.
And this economic anxiety isn't just a feeling, it's rooted in some absolutely mind-boggling numbers. People are pointing to the U.S. national debt, over $31 trillion, and using it as this huge symbol of the burden we're already carrying. It makes them ask a pretty fair question. Can we really afford another war?
And all of this brings us right back to where we started. In a world that's so interconnected, tangled up in this complex web, sure, military action might let you win on a battlefield, but does winning a war ever really mean you found a solution? A real, lasting solution? It's something to think about.